Whether you caught yourself casually watching an episode of Dragon Ball Z or are deep into the 1,000 plus episodes of One Piece, God bless your soul if you're caught up with One Piece, bro. I don't know how y'all do that. You are clearly familiar with anime, the Japanese animated media that has cemented itself in Western pop culture over the past few decades. Anime is quickly becoming the main genre of animation people watch. Out of the last 5 shows I've watched, 3 of them have been anime. I mean, it's all easy to believe considering how mainstream it's gotten in America. From the hundreds of conventions held around the country, anime movies playing in theaters, even some like the Demon Slayer movie, outgrossing current Marvel and DC movies at the box office. And I can't forget to mention the endless amounts of merch that is like everywhere, from your local mall to the grocery store aisles. The way anime has taken over always makes me wonder, how did it all start? Where did people first get introduced to anime?
The warriors have assembled. The lines have been drawn. The stakes are incalculable. The rewards unbelievable.
This could be your last chance for freedom and power.
This fight is all or nothing. It's weekdays 5 to 7 and midnight to 1 a.m. only on Cartoon Network. Accept no substitutes.
I'm sure, like many of you, I had my first exposure to anime thanks to Cartoon Network of all places. Cartoon Network is of course known for being the home of Western animation. It's responsible for the majority of our favorite childhood cartoons. While it may not be super unbelievable considering it's the Cartoon Network, I still find it somewhat weird that anime like Naruto and One Piece were airing on the same channel as like a Scooby-Doo or Chowder. As weird as it may have been though, it definitely proved to be a fantastic idea, as it's where the anime culture made its big splash in American households. From that point on, anime and Cartoon Network have become somewhat synonymous with each other, as anime went from just being reruns of old shows on the network and special late night blocks to some future anime being exclusively distributed by the network. However, similar to your current relationship, the one between anime and Cartoon Network did get a little rocky at times. While Toonami was already a programming block on Cartoon Network a year before in 1997, it wouldn't be until 1998 where the block aired its first anime, as contrary to what most people may believe about Toonami, in its early years it was fairly different from what we all remember it as today. In its first year, the block, while still being action oriented, was airing a lot of the old head classics like Voltron, Thundercats, and other shows, while being hosted by a Space Ghost character. I wonder how many of y'all remember Space Ghost, instead of the glorious host that was the robotic Tom, who we all know to be the Toonami mascot. It wasn't until its second year on the air in 1998 where Toonami aired an anime, and that anime would be Robotech. Yeah, the first anime on Toonami wasn't something huge like Dragon Ball Z. It was instead a mecha anime, which makes sense to be honest, since it was replacing Voltron on the time slot. And it's actually kind of poetic that Robotech was the first anime on Toonami, since the program shows tons of love to the mecha genre. One of their many marathons was an entire tribute to the mecha anime genre, where they played giant robot shows for a week in a marathon called Giant Robot Week. They really love the giant robots on Toonami. While I never watched Robotech or like seen it on Toonami since 1998, and I was born in like 03, I wasn't even conceived yet. It would be the first to break the seal though for Toonami, as months later another anime would hit the program, Sailor Moon, after it was brought by Turner in the same year, which by the way, me and Turner got beef right now, so that's the only time I'll be mentioning them in this video. I'll be striking my video, I'm mad about that. Once Sailor Moon hit Toonami, it was met with very high ratings, which is kind of surprising since Cartoon Network was heavily geared towards the young boy audience. But I mean, Sailor Moon is a classic in the genre, the whole magical girl stuff, like who doesn't like Sailor Moon? While Robotech and Sailor Moon were the first anime on Toonami, being extremely successful for the program, it wasn't until the grandfather of all anime came around to give Toonami all the swagger it's known for today, and really introduce generations to the world of anime.
I will make this whole planet suffer! This can't be happening! I am the Prince of all Saiyans once again!
Dragon Ball Z aired on Toonami on August 31st, 1998, and opening up to extremely extremely successful ratings that came courtesy of the first 53 episodes. You ask anyone where they first got into anime, and I guarantee majority of those people will tell you that it started here. Because if you were a kid around this time tuning into the network, it was damn near impossible to miss Dragon Ball Z. It was one of the few anime to have all its episodes actually air on the network. And even to this day, I think it still is the only anime aside of the new ones. Plus, it was also reran like fucking crazy from 1998 to 2008. Damn near 10 straight years of straight reruns. I'm not even kidding when I tell you just how much play DBZ got. It appeared in like 10 of the marathons that Toonami held, some of them being Dragon Ball exclusive.
Thanks to some dead presidents, you get the day off. Make an executive decision. Watch 3 DBZ movies, part of a special Toonami marathon.
Yes, this was a real promo, and it's the best thing I've ever seen. This is also a good time to mention the Toonami promos, because like the shows themselves, they are immensely nostalgic, especially the Dragon Ball ones. They were kind of like the first coming of YouTube AMVs. I miss this shit so much, man. We used to have it so good. Thanks to Dragon Ball Z's overwhelming success helping anime rise in popularity in the States, Toonami really began to air more and more animes as the years went on, such as OG Dragon Ball and GT, Gundam Wing, the Gundam series that popularized the genre here in the States, and Yu Yu Hakusho, the best shonen anime of all time. Argue about it with your mother. 2005 was where Toonami would bless audiences again, as it's the year when they started airing both Naruto and One Piece. They got to air two of the most popular animes of all time. Naruto, I know personally, was another introductory anime for many Americans in the same way Dragon Ball was. So having Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, and One Piece all playing on the network alongside all their original bangers made Cartoon Network a television powerhouse. You also gotta appreciate that they didn't exclusively air only the popular animes on the block, as they also showed stuff like Outlaw Star, Ronin Warriors, and Astro Boy 2003, plus many others that are seemingly pretty unknown compared to the other big animes out there, but they gave them just as much love. This is just what made Toonami so special, helping expose young Americans to so many memorable animes while also saving some from cancellation or just making them more well known. There was also an entire midnight block that aired from 12 a.m. to 5 a.m. on Saturdays to play less censored version of the animes, allowing for a more authentic viewing of them. It played a vital role in the culture and a direct part in how anime started its rise to mainstream fame in America, exposing thousands of us to the genre when we were younger. Even when Cartoon Network wasn't airing Japanese cartoons, the love for anime was still felt on the network. When something gets popular, you can expect almost anything to take inspiration from it due to its rising popularity. And due to that rising popularity of anime, several Western cartoons began to draw inspiration from them. You had an Akira reference here and there, along with the Super Saiyan reference, of course.
Is he still trying to turn into a Super Saiyan? Not quite the transformation I was hoping for.
But a lot of shows on Cartoon Network took it a step further, directly taking inspiration from anime for the vital parts of their shows. Teen Titans being probably the biggest example of this, with the show having its entire art and animation being the style of a Japanese cartoon. Other shows such as Totally Spies and its many spin-offs, Hi Hi Puffy and Miyumi, Code Lyoko, Samurai Jack, 2011's Thundercats, and Steven Universe, just to name a few, are all shows that did not hide how much anime truly inspired them, with anime sort of being in the roots of those shows, as well as the mention of anime coming up in their development processes. While on the topic of 2010 shows, that's sort of when things took a weird turn for anime on the network. Even though Toonami was a successful addition for Cartoon Network, that didn't keep it safe from staring down the other end of the cancellation gun. Come September of 2008, it was announced at Anime Weekend in Georgia that Toonami was being canceled due to low ratings, and that all things anime will be moving over to Adult Swim. It was made official when Toonami had a goodbye video from the host Tom, who was voiced by popular voice actor Stephen Bloom. It was his voice that narrated all the badass promos that I hold so near and dear to my heart. The cancellation of Toonami, however, did not spell the end for anime on Cartoon Network. It would just be taking a different direction. While we wouldn't see any of the mainstream hits on the network, we were still exposed to two shows, Bakugan and the Beyblade Metal Saga. Bakugan Battle Brawlers premiered in February of 2008, just a few months before Toonami's cancellation, and ran up until 2012. While they were no DBZ or Naruto, I and many others owe these two an immense amount of gratitude because they made for nice starter pack animes, riding a similar wave to like a Yu-Gi-Oh! Digimon, and Pokemon. They weren't super complex in plot like most animes, nor were they as violent, making them right at home for the Cartoon Network family. Now, me personally, I was more of a Beyblade guy, and I still am to this day. Shout out Ray and Bliss Striker and Ares, my goat. Beyblade was such a weird show, but like in the best way possible. Like these kids were ready to die over a game of spinning tops. All the loud screaming and intense battles had me cheering in front of my TV like I was actually part of Team Gang Galaxy. It was a fun and easy to follow anime as it spammed tournament arcs like no tomorrow, which, you know, if you know anime, tournament arcs are like the arcs to watch in an anime. And with how the Beyblade battles were portrayed in the show, there's no surprise that the toy sales were through the roof. Unfortunately though, my Pegasus never summoned a real Pegasus when I let it rip, so you know, that still hurts me to this day. Beyblade and Bakugan were as successful as they were because of how marketable they were. I know Japan was eating these things up like crazy, but the craze over in America might have topped it. Get it? Top, because I'm talking about Beyblade. I remember it got so bad that they literally banned Beyblades at my school. That's how much aura the show came with. Both shows also had their spin-offs and reboots air on the network. The Beyblade miniseries Bey Wheels was played on the network during the Metal Saga era, even though they had like no connection. And back in 2018, Bakugan got a reboot that, like every other show, was drowned out by the 1 million Teen Titans Go reruns. Many of us are familiar with mid-2010 Cartoon Network and their scheduling problems that pushed out a lot of shows in favor of their new hottest ones like Adventure Time and Teen Titans Go. I didn't mention it because I mean Cartoon Network didn't give a fuck about it anyway, but Pokemon XYZ was airing around the time of Beyblade and Bakugan, and it faced that same fate that other shows faced, as unlike in the 2000s, Pokemon was just struggling to gain airtime as it had to compete with the Cartoon Network hit shows at the time, meaning it got that good old early morning time slot that basically killed off all viewership completely, having it sent to Boomerang, which is basically the Cartoon Network sign of showing that your show is cooked. Pokemon eventually ended up leaving Cartoon Network though and went to the House of the Mouse, airing on Disney XD, where Beyblade would also go too, having the Birth season air on XD also. It was sad to see these two animes that we came to know on Cartoon Network leave the network and go other places, as it kind of meant the anime world for Cartoon Network in the mid-2010s basically dried up, as the channel that had given the medium its mainstream push kind of stopped giving a fuck about it. However, thanks to the channel's night program that I mentioned earlier, Adult Swim, anime would sort of make a technical return. I don't know how many of you consider Adult Swim to be a real extension of Cartoon Network or its own thing, but regardless, on April 1st, 2012, Adult Swim would celebrate April Fools by completely turning itself into the Toonami block. Tom was even brought back as he announced a schedule that was completely made up of anime, something that we haven't seen in like a couple of years. Following day, Adult Swim took to Twitter starting a hashtag movement saying hashtag bring back Toonami. And unlike most hashtag movements, this one actually resulted in something, as Toonami would actually be brought back. On May 26, 2012, the block will return on Adult Swim, and today it still remains there, as they've been airing tons of recent new anime like all of Dragon Ball Super and Daima, My Hero, Demon Slayer, even Dandadan to let you know how up to date they are. But like the past, they aren't shying away from the old goodies, as they've aired stuff like Cowboy Bebop, Bleach, and Soul Eater for the first time. Cartoon Network itself hasn't had anything close to anime on the schedule. It's nice that Adult Swim has decided to carry on the legacy every Saturday night. It's pretty surreal when you look back at Cartoon Network's legacy and how much of your childhood it really built. Not only were their original shows masterpieces in their own right, but then you were also introduced to a vast new world of action with them airing anime. Many of us wouldn't be in the community spaces we are now if it wasn't for the Toonami block, or have the fond memories of asking for every Beyblade or Bakugan. Anime has been taking over the world within the past handful of years, as everyone these days are invested in at least one anime, or have that anime that they've seen recently or when they were younger and they just can't stop thinking about it. So it's pretty nuts to think that it all started for America here on Cartoon Network. So with all that being said, let me know what was your favorite anime that aired on Cartoon Network that you watched. Like I said, Beyblade will always be nearest to my heart, so you know, if this video does well, maybe y'all get a Beyblade video, or maybe I'll just make it anyway and keep tanking my channel's views. But that's a story for next time. Until then, consider subscribing if you're new, and if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like and hype the video, as they both greatly benefit the channel. And until next time, it's been your boy Dan, the Boy Wonder, signing out. Peace.